and welcome to Bury Our Bones with Cinema, the podcast that lives, breathes and dies classic movies, not so classic movies and everything in between. I'm once again joined by the Del Trotter to my Rodney Trotter, the wonderful Mr. Simon Key. In today's episode, we have a train to catch with Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. So join us as we munch down on some ominous black jelly, take the scenic route through a frozen dystopian landscape, and finally ponder whether a first-class ticket is really worth it. This podcast contains spoilers.
I don't know why I've not seen this, but I feel like I often say that, so let me say something different. I'd wish I'd seen this before. Actually, no, I don't. I'm glad I enjoyed it at a specific time that I watched it, which I watched it last night, and then I watched it again today.
Which, I mean, for you is pretty hardcore. Like, usually I'm the guy who's watching films multiple times, so fair play. Obviously, it resonated with you to enough of a point for you to watch it again, which is good. My kind of interaction with it is, so for anybody who's been following us on Twitter or Instagram or on YouTube Shorts, I started at the beginning of June what I call the 30 Films of June movie challenge. And essentially it was, in 30 days, I have to watch 30 different films that I've not seen before. And I started it with a Bong Joon-ho movie called Memories of Murder, which is in his native Korean language. And I immediately fell in love with it. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal movie. And I was trying to look for a slightly kind of full circle moment. And I thought, well, let's, on the 30th of June then, let's finish it where we started and let's do another Bong Joon-ho movie. Now, what Bong Joon-ho movies haven't I seen? I've seen Parasite, so I can't do that one. Snowpiercer. I kind of forgot he'd done Snowpiercer. I knew it was a Korean director, but I kind of didn't put the two and two together. So I thought, let's do Snowpiercer then. And I immediately fell in love with it for pretty much very, very similar reasons to why I fell in love with Memories of Murder. So, a brief synopsis of Memories of Murder. So, there's a serial killer kind of on the loose, but it's not like, well, it is a thriller and a whodunit, but it's more, you kind of just watch these two detectives who mean well, but aren't particularly very good. They're kind of a little bit
hopeless.
They get this kid with learning disabilities and like fix him up for it because they think he done it and they think they're doing the right thing, and then they realize, oh fuck, he didn't do this. So then this other guy comes in from Seoul who is like I suppose the big shot guy. He's the established detective who knows how things are done. And he comes in and looks at it from a point of view of like, well, this kid clearly hasn't done it. And over the course of the film, it's like there's like a real delicately balanced fine line between like it being really quite funny and quite humorous, because this hapless detective who's played by the same guy who is in Snowpiercer, let me just get his name.
Kang Ho-son.
I think it's always not where I want it. So Sang Kang-ho, who plays Nam-gung Min-so in Snowpiercer. So it's played by the same guy, and he's really good at like being this sort of like hapless, really charming guy, but not because he's like charismatic, but just because he's so like hapless that you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him and like him. And you've got these horrific murders that are going on, but then you're laughing at the way this guy is like, trying to solve the crime. And one of the things I found with Snowpiercer, just to bring it back onto this film, is it does that very well as well. Like, this is a really bleak kind of view of the world that we see in this, dystopian future. But then at points you're laughing, particularly with, some of the characters. Tilda Swinton as Mason, for example, is a really funny character. The way she comes in with that, that northern kind of, well, it's a northern accent, and she's like, right, now listen, everyone, this is the way this is the way things are.
It's kind of unexpected to hear a regional northern accent. It's to this movie's credit, actually, like little touches like that. It almost makes it feel, in one way, more grounded and more realism. But it's also, we're not used to seeing it in like a Hollywood looking movie. I can't help. But the reason I like this sort of movie is it just feels like I love it when there's one objective, like the raid, like get to the top of the building or whatever. This is just get to the front of the train.
And there was a similar kind of thing that I thought. Like, I've never seen the raid, but I've seen that very famous one-shot fight scene that has kind of been mimicked in Daredevil as well. And there's almost a little bit of that in this as well, when they, like, in the middle of the train where they start fighting against all the guards and that. So it's very similar in that regard. But yeah, it's you understand very, very quickly what the film is. It doesn't take too long. And it's strange because in a dystopian world or a dystopian film, you kind of would expect it to spend ages setting everything up. And it is a fairly long film, but it never feels like it hangs around too long and never goes, right, this is the world we're in and this is the world we're in. Nothing's really happening. You kind of know very early on, within, I'd say, a couple of minutes, Chris Evans is counting how long those doors are open for and going, you know what? We know exactly what Chris Evans's goal and objective is in this film very, very quickly. It's not beating around the bush. It's not taking its time. And because of that, you can get to places a lot quicker and you can do, I think the beauty of it is the way that each section of the train feels different from the previous. And I think it only really manages to do that because it doesn't spend too long building up this world too much.
Yeah, I think those types of movies, this movie is a couple of hours, because every carriage is like a bit of a mystery and it is a bit awe-inspiring, I think it actually carries that quite well. Like, I think it carries the burden of being a slightly longer movie. I feel like, it's just simple stuff. If the train looked the same the whole way down, I reckon this would be boring.
Yeah.
It's those moments of like when they go. It's quite. They go into like this. It turns into a classroom at some point. Like quite. And at one point it's like you get. I don't really know why a couple of carriages to the front there's like a big rave party going on. I don't fully, but I don't dislike that. I really like that. There's just like, it just looks good, doesn't it? It looks good on screen. Like it's not. It's there's a lot of stuff you can take away from this movie, but I guess it's visually really cool, isn't it? Sorry, go on, Mom.
Yeah, visually very distinct from each other, and you go through one door and you've got this whole new world, and then you're there 10 minutes, 15 minutes whilst they figure out the next way to get to their objective or the next thing they need to do, and then they go through another door and there's another world, and so it's ironically a bit like the train itself, where it never stays in one position for too long. It just keeps going. This film is very much like that, where it's like, right, okay, we've seen this area of the train, now we're moving on, here's the next part.
I've never really got behind because I was sort of off the Marvel train quite early, and so when the Captain America one's coming out, I was kind of off at that point. I feel like the Marvel, I got off at 3 stops on the. When did I get off the Marvel train? I was watching it when there was the Daredevil series, but
that was never really connected to up until
MCU.
Recently. It was never really connected to the MCU. So,
but I was not really. I didn't bother going to see the Captain America ones. And what I've seen of him as Captain America, like, no problems. I've never been a super Captain America fan. I had a few of the toys and stuff when I was younger. I didn't really read the Captain America comics, but I liked Captain America. But he seems good as him. He is him, isn't he?
Yeah.
And then
I wouldn't let you go down that rabbit hole.
Oh my God, yeah.
You've been speaking about this guy. He's not even in that film.
But I really rate him in this. Like, is this like a bit of an anti-hero type? You know, for me, he carries that. I almost want more of it, to be honest to you. It feels, I would go see him as a lead in a, you know, a slightly less Disneyfied sort of, where the stakes are high. He really performs.
Well, this I think is a really interesting time from Chris Evans's career, because obviously at this point, so this is 2013, 2014, and by that point you've had the first Captain America movie, you've had the first Avengers movie, so he's very, very, very well known at this point, but he hasn't got to the point where that's all you see him as. Like, I think probably shortly after 2015, where there was like every other movie was a Marvel movie, where you couldn't really see, and you can kind of see that in some of his like some of the choices he makes. Like, other than probably Knives Out, name a Chris Evans movie that isn't part of the MCU. It's very difficult to do, and if it is, it's probably not a particularly great one. Whereas this, you had all around similar kinds of times. You had The Losers, which was another comic book movie, but like completely different. You had obviously Snowpiercer. This, you had things like, there's a film called Push, which is another superhero, or it's not really superhero, it's more like special powers type movie, but in a bit more of a gritty way. There's a film called Puncture, which is, he plays a lawyer who basically tries to sue the American health system. And it's like, at this time, he was picking roles that were like quite interesting, as well as doing the MCU. And obviously, as the MCU has become this whole completely different beast, he's kind of got lost in that. And to be fair, rightly so. If you're Captain America in the MCU, you're kind of a massive part of that. That's understandable. But I kind of really appreciate this time in Chris Evans' career, because it's banger after banger. Like, you've got Snowpiercer at the same sort of time as you've got the second Captain America movie coming out. Like, to go from Captain America, yes, okay, they're both the heroine, or the heroes of the story, but they're completely different characters. Like, this guy, he's a hero not because he wants to be. He's a hero because of his guilt. There's that speech at the end that the reason why he sticks with Edgar, and the reason why he becomes the leader, is because because he killed Edgar's mother, and everybody else sacrificed like a body part to feed the people, obviously prior to this, these protein blocks coming in. So he's a hero, but for completely different reasons. Whereas Captain America is your straight-laced America through and through, will never do anything bad. So it's very, very different characters. And to have those two roles kind of going on around about the same time is, I think, really quite interesting.
I think it was really clever of this movie to drop that right at the end. Like, when it gets to the end of the train, that there's a twist, and that he was clearly quite a bad, he was in desperate times, but he was going around trying to sort of eat people. They turned to cannibalism because they were stuck in that train. They were like the freeloaders on the train. That's what they call it at the beginning. And they would turn into sort of cannibalism. And then, he was gonna, they were gonna kill a child or a baby or something. And then John Hurt's character supposedly came along and chopped off a limb. He said, "If you're hungry, eat this." And then everyone started doing it. He never could do it himself, and then he makes a sacrifice towards the end, doesn't he? Like that.
Yeah.
Spoiler. Yeah. No, you got the spoiler tag, haven't you?
If anybody's listening to our podcast now and hasn't figured out that they're spoilers, then shame on them.
So, but up until that point, when I was watching this for the first time, didn't have any idea what was going on. He was kind of just an unexplained, a bit of a Snake Plissken,
yeah.
And he really absolutely nailed that. And then when you get the depth at the end, it really values the rewatch because it all lines up, and it's like, I don't know. It's like it just feels like it sort of hits all the marks. I think that this and I guess there could be some criticisms of it, but it just with stuff like that, it's like I was really that there was no point when I was like, he's giving off vibes of a really goody two shoes guy. So I wasn't, but I was still very surprised at how grim the twist was of her, what his backstory was.
It's something you're not expecting, and I suppose a part of that is because of our associations with Captain America. But I know what you mean. It's a very British thing where if he had been a Captain America type, in the sense of, his morals are 100% genuine. He's very, very good to the core. There's a certain Britishness value where if anybody's like that, we don't trust them. Like, Americans seem to be a lot more positive with that kind of thing, whereas I feel for British people, if we have a genuine nice guy, heroine type, who's like, yeah, we're going to stand up for them, we're like, well, there's clearly something wrong with him, that kind of thing. So I think if it had been that, I would have definitely completely kind of took a step back and be like, I can't get on board with Chris Evans' character there. It's a bit too, I want some flaws in him. I don't want him to be perfect.
But he doesn't really show many flaws at the beginning, but he
no.
He does little things like he lets his sort of really close friend die for the good of the cause, and he's not jumping through hoops to keep everyone alive. He kind of is, but he's not. And I think it's those little hints. It's like, God, he has come from something sort of. I don't know really, and that's not even the most exciting bit is that twist, but it just gives it like at the beginning. When I rewatched it today, he's saying at the beginning, like, he doesn't like to remember, in his head, he doesn't like to remember anything before he met Gilliam, John Hurt, I think.
Yeah.
Because and then you find out why at the end. And it's just, you can go back and forth on this train, watch it twice. Tilda Swinton is probably the standout.
She's so charismatic and so scene grabbing, This is not a shoe. This is disorder. It's so, and that's what I mean about the humour. Like, it's genuinely quite funny, and I think it's a really, whether or not it was Tilda Swinton's choice to do that, or whether or not it was Bong Joon-ho's suggestion, I don't know. But it makes her motivations even more kind of bleak and morally corrupt, because again, probably from a US audience or a people who aren't from England, maybe not so much, but from an English point of view, I hear that accent and I automatically think this person's a nice person. They're friendly. That's what they always say. Anything south is, we don't want to say hello to anybody on the train. You go up north and it's like, hey, how are you? You're right. You having a good morning? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's nicer up north. And having her be having that accent means that you kind of sort of subconsciously trust her. You subconsciously want her to be good, but then she's obviously not good. And it's such a, the juxtaposition there is such a really, really nice, awesome touch to her character, because she could have just done it very much RP or, had a US accent, and she'd have still been a good character, and it would still be like, oh God, what a bitch. But now, because she's almost presenting herself as being this, even the things she says, whereby without order, all of this falls apart. Like, we're doing this to help you. We're not doing this for us. We're doing this so that we can keep this train moving. When actually it's all a bit sort of morally corrupt. Just makes it even worse. And you forget. It's easier to forget all the shit she's doing because she's coming across as a very friendly person.
She's very like deputy head, sort of how the language she uses to speak.
Yeah,
to them,
she's the teacher at school who's on your side.
Yeah.
When meanwhile she's going back and she's writing a bad report about you and passing it off as being the head teacher's report. That kind of thing.
Her glasses are honestly like my nan's were. Like her glasses, those sort of thick rims.
Yeah, I think my nan had glass. I think everybody probably did it. In the.
She dressed a bit like a nan, actually.
Yeah,
that sort of queen look. That one colour.
It's nan going to a wedding type look, isn't it? She's put her best frock on.
Is it a bit like Heidi High as well?
Yeah, there probably is a little bit.
What is that from Heidi High?
So Heidi High was basically like it was an old sitcom where it was in a holiday camp.
Yeah, okay.
And
she's on the phone or something. Heidi High.
Heidi High. Yeah, that was their greeting.
I feel like I've heard more people quote it than I've ever seen it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was one of the. I mean, I know because it would be something my dad would put on UK Gold, that type of thing. So
the look she was doing, because there's a bit on in the background of like quite a cruel scene of when dude with curly hair has his son stolen.
Yeah, Ewan Bremner.
And then they stick his arm outside of the train and it freezes, and they bring it back in and they get a sledgehammer. After the 7-minute speech from Heidi High, they get a sledgehammer and they smash it. But as she's like going to bring the mallet down, or would you go sledgehammer, sort of Thor's hammer, it looks like. As they're going to bring that down, she's like it zooms into Tilda Swinton's face, and she's giving a very like League of Gentlemen. Like you can't describe that League of Gentlemen face, a sour face, or like she like this is how it should happen.
For anybody who obviously cannot see, I'm doing the face now.
I need to film it.
But yeah, it's that kind of sucking on a lemon type face, and a bit sort of like bits. It's always comes from those sorts of people who kind of think they're higher. They have a more higher social hierarchy. They have a highest. I'm just stumbling over word. Like Hyacinth Bouquet.
Yeah,
where she thinks she's Hyacinth Bouquet and it's actually her Hyacinth Bucket.
I almost met her the other day. I was in the same room as her. She's 97.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
crazy.
In a wheelchair.
National treasure. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where people who think they are, in a different social class than what they actually are, often have that face. Pauline from League of Gentlemen always thought she was better than everyone else, so she was always pulling that kind of "who do you think you are" face.
They have very similar look as well, Pauline. So I think same glasses, like sort of hair.
As I say, I think it was just like if you had glasses and you were a woman in the 80s, you had them glasses. It was like it must have been like Specsavers only did one pair of glasses and that was it.
I mean, Tilda now, it's weird, isn't it? Because Tilda Swinton, she looks really cool in that, what she's wearing in this. I really like that Suspiria remake. Have you seen that?
I tried watching it, but I couldn't get. It was a long film, and I just couldn't get my head into it when I was watching it.
But she's good in that. Yeah. I mean, she's good in everything, isn't she? But this is just it. It's just a bit. It's just a fun performance, and John Hurt. I mean, when we last rendezvoused with JohnUrt,
it was V for Vendetta, wasn't it?
When was that around similar sort of time as this, or quite
early? So I think that was probably 7 or 8 years before. I think it was 2005. This is 2013, 2014. So 7, 8, 9 years before, depending on where in the world this was released. So I think John Hurt was certainly getting to that point in his career where a lot of the roles he was being cast in was like either the Oracle kind of wise man kind of role. He's kind of that in Harry Potter as well as Ollivander, where he kind of knows everything about wands, and he's kind of that here. So for good reason, because he's brilliant at it. He's John Hurt. You add John Hurt to the film, it automatically becomes a little bit more legit. It's a lot more believable to have John Hurt as a character who, understands, what we need to do to get to the front of the train. And then when there is that final reveal where actually he's in leagues with Ed Harris, you kind of go, I can see that.
Because he's clever. And it feels like he's the sort of person a bit like he probably would believe in he needs to keep the train in order, which is, you know, a lot of the, you know, the people with any wisdom on that train, I guess they realised that this is the way it's got to be. This is the way it's got to be. To just, you know, we were the last bit of humanity or whatever. Yeah, John Hurt's. I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, it gives the back of the train heart, doesn't it? And he's kind of their leader. There's a bit of like you know, it says like, oh, Curtis, you're going to have to step up. You know, he will die at some point. What, to me, watching this now, doesn't it hasn't really. It may be like bits of CGI and stuff, but it's always the thing. But it doesn't really feel. It actually feels really fresh, and I think like a lot of stuff. You know, obviously, this dude did The Parasite, didn't he? And I've not seen it. Well, I will
I mean,
do.
you definitely need to see Parasite.
You know, when you just put off those Oscar ones just for the sake of, for no reason. I've not seen it.
The thing I would say is it wasn't a surprise that it won an Oscar, but it's a surprising Oscar win in the sense of it's not I always find Oscar films are usually quite bait worthy. It's like, okay, if you want to try and win an Oscar, you take an emotional subject matter, you take some very good actors, you make a film really long, and you make it very emotional. And, you know, some films deserve to win Oscars when they're doing things like that. Things like Schindler's List is a phenomenal film and deserves to win an Oscar. But then you get the other ones which are trying to do what Schindler's List do, where it's just, you can tell we've made this movie because we want to win an Oscar rather than it being this story needs to be told. Yeah. And Parasite isn't that at all. Parasite is, when I watched it, it was one of the most surprising films I think I'd watched up to that point, and maybe even since. It just, I'm obviously, I watch a lot of movies, and I'm not an expert by any means, but generally speaking, I'd say about 90% of the time, I'll watch a movie and I kind of know where it's going, and that's not always a bad thing. But generally speaking, I kind of go, okay, I know where this film's going, I know what's going to happen. You know, maybe not everything, but generally speaking, I can tell you the general direction. Parasite was so different that it just wasn't. I couldn't predict where it was going, and I was enjoying not knowing where it was going. And I would implore you and anybody who hasn't seen Parasite to go and watch it, because I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I believe you, right? I totally do. And I think with this is that obviously he's done great things that have got massive critical acclaim. And this, I don't know how this did, but sure we'll find out. But I think that you can tell that you can see influences in other things that have done well. Like this, to me, is like, when I watched this, I was like, this is like an episode of Andor, and that's got really high critical praise, that series. Like, and it's a bit like this. Even the casting similar. There's a lot of like British people in it, of like people you've seen in little bits and pieces here and there. Like, I really love the cast in this. It's got Freddie from Skins.
Yeah, I mean that was the craziest one for me, because I was like, what? Like, because I don't, you know, I was never really into Skins, and that guy as an actor, I'm not particularly fond of. He kind of plays similar roles in pretty much anything. And I was really surprised that he's that, and he's like not at all like anything else he's been in that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, he just comes out running, doesn't he? That they're like, I'm gonna what's the guy? Gilliam.
Yeah.
Gilliam's like, I'll be okay now. Don't worry, you can leave me. He's like his protector, and then he like jumps up and he like jumps into like some crazy running pose, and then like stabs someone in their chest and jumps on them and gets these keys. That's the scene, his reveal, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just you would
bit of a savage.
You would expect him to be like someone who talks a lot, but he doesn't. He just kind of goes in, gets the job done, and then, you know, goes back to Gilliam and makes sure he's all right.
Very cool.
You know, and
it's also really good to have a guy like him on the good side, you know, because they always have villains like that.
Yeah, he would absolutely be like a mid-film boss.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit, how are we going to get past him? Oh, we've got to get. I always remember it. He reminds me, and this is a weird link, but like Have you seen the film Mean Machine?
Oh, what, the football?
The football one in prison.
Yeah.
You know Jason Statham in that as the monk, where he's like a psychopath who happens to be like quite good at being a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And it's like he's fucking mental, but he's on the good side, so it's all right. Kind of reminds me of that in the sense of like, don't go near the monk. He's gonna fuck you up, you know. And it's kind of a little bit like that with him. It's like, oh, he's on the good side, but don't cross him because he's fucking mental. And so I was really surprised because I was expecting him to be the tries to look cool, tries to look sexy, and everything he's doing. I mean, there is an element of that because he obviously does a lot of it with his shirt off, but it's not like it's trying to be something it's not. So I was quite impressed with that. But I know what you mean with the cast. There's a lot of faces that you might recognise from other things, but filled with those people who you would go, oh, it's that dude from that thing, but don't necessarily know their name, you know. But as we're on that, let's go through the cast. Obviously, we've got Chris Evans as Curtis. We've got Song Kang-ho as Noongang Min-so, who is also in The Host, Thirst, Secret Sunshine. We've got Ed Harris as Wilford, who, the fact that it's Ed Harris at the end is such a good touch.
I mean,
like
he's
like you've got the gravitas on the good side. We need the gravitas on the bad side.
Yeah, it works.
And
he's
you know,
great.
Ed Harris brings that level of prestige and that level of kind of you're in safe hands with Ed Harris from a film viewing experience.
Who else could you have had there quick? I reckon that guy from 24. I don't know
what, Kiefer Sutherland?
Yeah, I reckon it'd be good at
you could
that type of character. I think it's that
you
kind
could have had that. You could have had his dad, Donald Sutherland.
Oh wow, okay, fair.
You know, who is kind of, he's done like this Hunger Games, so he's used to this kind of subject matter. You could have, you could have someone like Sean Connery in that role.
Oh my god,
that would, you know.
Is Ed Harris? Was he Westworld?
Yeah.
God,
Westworld,
that was good. I only watched season 1. It went down.
History of Violence.
Yeah.
We've got John Hurt as Gilliam, who I can't remember who it was. I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I basically let them know that the guy who has the alien burst out of his chest in Alien is John Hurt, and it blew their mind. I was like, how do you not know that? Like, but are you telling me you didn't know that?
I don't remember. John Hurt is one of these characters. You know, like, to be honest with you, no. But now you say it, I'm like, oh yeah. But when he, you know, in that, oh my god, the Anonymous movie,
V for Vendetta.
Yeah. V for Vendetta. You know, when he's in that, and you're like, oh, it's John Hurt from 1984. I was like, I've got a weird thing with him that. It's hard to place his face. I don't know why that is. I saw 1984. I was quite young, actually. My brother watched it for like some sort of when he was studying it or something. And I don't know much about him. I just know that he's one of the old school ones because he's quite old in this, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
What's one of his like greatest?
Elephant Man.
I've never seen it. See?
No, he plays the Elephant Man along with Anthony Hopkins. He's also in Hellboy. He plays like the mad professor in Hellboy.
John Hurt. Is he in like? I must have seen something that one of the classics.
You put me on the spot there.
No, it's all right. You carry on.
You got Tilda Swinton as Mason. You've got Jamie Bell as Edgar, who obviously Jamie Bell for so many people is Billy Elliot, and he's one of those. I think very similar to kind of Daniel Radcliffe. In the sense of they had a really big role when they were younger, and they're always kind of trying to get away from that. I feel like Jamie Bell managed to get away from Billy Elliot really, really quickly and really easily, to the point where he's become his own kind of thing now. He's no longer Billy Elliot, whereas I think Daniel Radcliffe is still trying not to be Harry Potter.
The thing is, he's done so many things, Daniel Radcliffe, hasn't he? And he did like plays, and I don't know why we still see him as Harry Potter. But I think the character's more iconic. The glasses and
unless you're into musical theatre, like I think Hannah would definitely say Billy Elliot is more iconic than Harry Potter.
Really?
Maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah. I just want to dance, mummy. I think for musical fans, Billy Elliot will probably be a bit more iconic. I don't know, but that's what I would think. We've got Octavia Spencer as Tanya, who is she's a face who's in lots and lots of things, and perhaps not everybody knows her name, or but everybody would have seen probably at least one Octavia Spencer film. Something like The Help, Fruitvale Station, Hidden Figures. Not very often the main character, but usually the supporting character who knocks it out the park. We've got Ewan Bremner as Andrew, who is the chap who loses his arm outside when he gets his arm outside the train, who for me will always be the dude from Train Spotting, and also Lock, Stock, the one who Vinnie Jones takes him for a little drive whilst his tie's through the car. But again, he's probably a guy who people go, oh, it's that guy, but probably don't really know his name. We've got Ko Ah-sung as Yona. We've got Luke Pasqualino, which is the dude from Skins that we were just talking about. So a real mixture of people. If you were saying, right, we're gonna do a film, you probably wouldn't put these people together. It's quite an eclectic mix in a really, really good way.
Yeah,
because everybody brings their own kind of.
It's like someone who's really good at making a music playlist.
Yeah,
bloody hell, you've got some good songs.
Yeah, you can't just.
And there's only 20 songs on it, but it's good ones.
You can't have 20 Thunderstrucks. No. A very good song, but it can't just all be that. You've got to have light and shade. You've got to have, happy and sad. You've got to have everything in between.
I honestly think as well, just giving Chris Evans a beanie in this is just. He reminds me a bit of, Gary Economics. He reminds me of the look of him. He looks kind of casual. I think the beanie is because it looks like, and maybe now you can tell me where this has come from. Is this based on some sort of graphic novel or something?
It is, but it's not. It's not a well-known one. So it's based on a French graphic novel, and it is It is called. Let me just find it. And forgive my French here, but Les Transpionnage.
Well done. It was a good effort. I don't know. Obviously.
It
sounds
probably I've got a lot. All of our French listeners will now have decided never to listen to this again. So I do apologise. But yeah, so Bong Joon-ho discovered it in sort of late 2004 when he was doing pre-production for The Host, which is another Bong Joon-ho movie, which is, for anybody who hasn't seen The Host, whenever you watch a monster movie, there's always that tried and tested routine that was probably formulated in Jaws, or at least perfected in Jaws, where you don't see full glimpses of the monster or the shark or wherever it is for at least the first hour. You see the effects it has on the world it's in, but you don't see it, and then there's a slow reveal. The Host does the exact opposite. You see it very, very early on. There's no mystery, and it takes it in a completely different direction. So, yeah, that. But yeah, so he was doing Bong Joon-ho was doing pre-production for The Host, and kind of read this comic and was fascinated by the idea of people struggling on a train for survival. And apparently the drawings in the tail section were illustrated by Jean-Marc Roche, who is the original comic book artist of the graphic novel as well. So there's nice links to the original artwork there. So, but I think what I like about this is that it does feel like it's based on a graphic novel. It feels like it's based in a more visual medium than film. Does that make sense? Because film is a visual medium.
I think it feels like you could draw each of the characters.
Yeah,
they're quite clear. You got
you can quite easily see the storyboard.
The drug addict, the sort of the guy from Skins is clearly a bit of a lunatic. He just fights.
Yeah.
They're all archetypal. And I feel like when I see stuff like that, I think is that come from something you can draw?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Rather than maybe I don't know, a normal novel or something, or
and
just a screenplay.
I think the good thing about this is I feel like if this was made today or recently, maybe not by Bong Joon-ho, but let's say somebody else, there would be this kind of need to have it littered with Easter eggs, and you kind of need to know the source material to get the full experience from, pretty much following in that MCU style of filmmaking, where if you've read the comic books, if you know every single Marvel character, you're going to enjoy this 10 times more than somebody who just wants to go and watch a film. I like that it isn't that. I like that it probably does have stuff in there, but at no point does it feel like I'm missing like this whole backstory or this whole other comic book series that fills in all the blanks for me. It never has any of that. It's very much its own entity. Obviously, this spawned a Netflix series as well, where there's 3 seasons of that.
Generally makes for quite good. Yeah, sorry, I was going to ask you about that. It generally makes for quite good sort of thrilling view. It's quite fun to watch these things. I don't know if people will agree. Like, it reminds me of that. There's a lot of movies, isn't there, where there's like apocalypse on the outside. This is the world we live in now, and they're in a bunker. There's one underground. There's the one, I forget, something Cloverfield Lane or something.
Oh yeah.
There's also
24 Cloverfield Lane.
There's another one where they're in a bunker underground as well, and I feel like you would have seen it. It's got the guy from Heroes in it. It's a bit of an off-grid movie.
Which guy from here?
The guy that's also in Gilmore Girls, which I don't think it's not gonna get you. I'll have a look in a minute. But I generally quite like these films because you're put in quite a claustrophobic situation, and then but there's enough backstory in the outside world, but you don't really have to explain it very much because it's obvious. And I think like it just adds like. It's just it feels quite fully fleshed out, the world, even though it's just set on a train. Do you know what I mean? I really like the bits they did at the beginning. Did you like the sort of the C-27 or whatever it's called?
Yeah, I think it gives you as much information as you need, and I feel like it's difficult because depending on how these films are done, depends on how much information you need. Like, this is going to sound like a total on the fence answer to a question you haven't even really asked, but some films need lots and lots of information for you to actually be invested in it, and you kind of need to know all of this stuff, and you need to know pretty much everything to get what the filmmaker is trying to say. Some you need next to nothing. Some you need a little bit, and I feel like this you need enough for you to go, okay, well, why does everybody live on a train? Okay, now I know that. Let's get on with the movie. Kind of all you need to know. You could go into it a bit more, but that does the age old thing of the mystery is far more interesting than the reality. So, and just pulling focus completely back to what's on screen. So there's a really interesting story, and it makes me love Bong Joon-ho even more. So the elephant in the room, for anybody who's seen this movie,
John Hurt.
No.
Oh. So it's the Elephant Man, wasn't he?
No. I see what you'd fucking done there. I thought you were making some like John like conspiracy theory thing. I was like, what's John Hurt done? No. So this was produced by the Weinstein Company, and obviously Harvey Weinstein was the head of that company, and he clashed with Bong Joon-ho because he wanted it to be done in a certain way, and Bong Joon-ho was like, no, I'm doing it how I want to do it. And obviously this is his first English language movie, his first movie with a US production company, so you could understand that kind of. I think I can always remember when we done the Ring episode, Hideo Nakata, the director of the Japanese version of The Ring and also the sequel to the US version of The Ring, he kind of remade his film for a US audience and was quite surprised at how much studio interference there was, and wish he'd put his foot down a bit more. And so Harvey Weinstein basically was frequently kind of like telling Bong Joon-ho about how this film should be made and his demands. And one of the requests that he made was there's that fish scene where they're just about to have that big fight between the guards and the, what do they call them? The people at the back of the train. It's like, I can't. The people who live at the tail end of the train.
Freeloaders? I don't know.
Something like that.
They got a name from. Okay.
They're just about to have that big fight, and one of the guards pulls out a fish and just guts the fish in front of everyone. And Harvey Weinstein basically didn't want that in the film. He was like, "That's not going to work with US audiences. Get rid of it. Don't want it in there." And sort of Bong Joon-ho was like, no, that scene needs to be in there. And basically said it was a tribute to his late father, who was a fisherman. So really sort of played this emotional, sentimental element of like this being a tribute to his father. So Harvey Weinstein, eventually kind of relented and said, okay, it can stay in there. And then basically, I think one of the crew went, "Oh, that's really nice. It's really nice that you've done that sentimental thing for your father being a fisherman." And Bong Joon-ho was like, "My father wasn't a fisherman. It's a fucking lie. I just really love the scene, And it just like, obviously Harvey Weinstein, as we know, is a fucking monster. And any time that people push up against him and like don't let him hold power over them is a win in my book, naturally. And Bong Joon-ho doing it in such a fucking awesome way of like creating this, just manipulating him, I think is another feather in Bong Joon-ho's cap.
Yeah, and it's like it's quite memorable, that bit. The only bit that spins out in this movie is like it like cuts like you're on a commercial break in that very bit. It does the fish bit. Did you know this? I don't know why they had to do it, but they probably had to chop things around for some reason. But you get the fish scene, and then it cuts to outside the train, and then the fight starts. But it feels like you've come back from a commercial break.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I quite like that. It feels a bit like a TV show.
There's a couple of times where it has a slow fade to black, which isn't a very. I mean, it's the one, shot transition that anybody who ever edits a movie on Windows Movie Maker or the like, or, home video camcorder always uses a slow fade to black. It's not one you really see in Hollywood movies a lot, but here it like really does work. It seems like such a basic transition, but really works, and I can't really tell you why.
No.
And I think that makes me love it even more because I don't know why it's done. It just looked, and that fight scene is so reminiscent of like the Raid and the Daredevil scene, albeit it's not in one shot. It's cut, but it feels very much like, okay, you've got all the guards, you've got all the good guys, and you're in a confined space, and it's just going to be sheer pandemonium.
It's a bit like I was getting 300 vibes from it. Were you?
Yeah,
like
a little bit. Yeah,
endless hordes.
Yeah,
hordes.
It's that thing of
next.
Nobody's coming out of this in one piece. It's going to be it's going to be a bloodbath, and you kind of the slow build to it, because you know what's going to happen as soon as you see those, balaclavaed up guards, and you think, it's about to go down, and it takes its time getting to it. It does the fish thing, has the weird cut, doesn't just go to it, and then it all stops because Mason comes out and says, we need order. This is you've stepped over your mark here, and there's like another element to the train and the secrets that the train holds, where they know they're going in a tunnel, and then all of the guards have got night vision goggles, and it's like, oh fuck, this has just escalated a bit more.
Yeah.
Now this isn't a fair fight at all, and it's just another escalation, which it would have been enough just to have the massive like fight and that be the end of it. Like, you know, enough.
It goes like another stop where they're even more out of their depth. Like, because the moment that door opens, like they're trying to open the door, and then she's clairvoyant for some reason, isn't she? And she said, "Don't shut the door," and then it opens, and all these really hard guys are there, you know, and they're like in balaclavas and stuff, and like you say, and then. But the bit where it interrupts it as well for the Happy New Year is that it's like you get to see a bit of their like how they actually live on there. So like, oh yeah, Happy New Year, everyone, and that they're all a bit like, oh, Edgar goes, oh, another year older. I hate getting older or something. And it's like they still have these. It would be the same as like Christmas coming around, wouldn't it? On this train, it's like, and then they carry on fighting. It's sort of interrupts. It's very cool. That.
Yeah, you realise in these fucked up situations with this really bleak outlook and this really, you know, there isn't probably a lot to look forward to, and those human elements come through even more. Where you're going, yeah, you probably would be like, oh, Happy New Year, you know, but okay, maybe not in the middle of this massive fight, but there is an element where, yeah, they probably are going, oh, Happy New Year, oh, it's Christmas again, or whatever it is,
yeah,
you know.
I mean, isn't it the World War II thing where they had the football match, or World War One?
Yeah,
I don't know if that's true or not.
I think it's true. I think it's true. I don't
know history.
I know what you mean, because I know there's that Paul McCartney song. Is it a Paul McCartney song where the video to it is a Christmas song?
Wish I was at home for Christmas. No, it's not Paul.
No,
Shakin' Steve. No, it's not Shakin' Stevens.
I always feel like it's Paul McCartney.
Wish I was at home.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
the video for that is a depiction of that scene.
Oh, is it?
I think so. Either that, or it's a Paul McCartney one that has the video for that scene, and I'm just placing this. Essentially, there's a Christmas song that has a depiction of that scene, and because of that, I always think, oh, that actually didn't happen. It's all fake. It was just in that music video. But I think it's based on true events.
But yeah, it has a bit of that element in it, doesn't it? Like, even in these situations, you can be civil with each other for a few seconds if there's a big enough occasion or something that you all celebrate. But I feel like this. I mean, at this point, we're getting that sort of other villain coming, aren't we? Who's sort of the main villain throughout, and he's quite interesting. We don't really find out much about him.
I think that's really why he's interesting, because you know so little about him. He, you know, initially he just seems like, oh, he's just another thug, he's just another one. But then it's like, oh, he's a persistent one. Like you fill in the blanks and you go, oh, he's on a crusade of his own. Like there's a reason why he keeps getting back up. It's not because he's worried about order or anything like that. I think there's an element where he's like, he fucking loves this world that's been created.
He's a job's worth.
Yeah, he's the guy who has joined this cause because it gives him the power he doesn't have or didn't have prior to it, and now he's got a taste of it. He's not going to give it up, and he's just gonna. That's the kind of the approach I get from it.
There's a cool scenes, isn't there, where they're shooting each other across the
where it's going around the bend.
Yeah, that's it's quite like, I don't know what it reminds me of, but it's sort of a bit silly but also funny.
It's a thing. It's one of those things where like in films, I always find there's what I call video game scenes.
Yeah, that's it.
Whereby this would happen in a video game because it's fucking cool and you want to be the person doing it. It's not realistic in the slightest, and it's not adding anything to the story. It's not narrative driven, but it's like, you know, it's the hot fuzz thing of, have you ever jumped through the air firing two pistols? Like, you do that because it looks cool, and it's that kind of thing here where. What's a cool way of showing the distance between these people? Because I think that's probably why it's there, just to show how far away they are in terms of the train. Oh, well, let's do that. You know, nobody's making either of those two shots, you know.
With the guns they have as well.
Exactly. With the speed of the train, and, you know, nobody's making those shots, and it really doesn't matter. It's just cool. And you know, I'll be the first to admit, sometimes in films where it's like it's ridiculous and those things happen, where it's like, this is ridiculous, this is taking me out of it. This is a moment where you go, actually, that is there purely just to look cool and just to add a little bit of what I call the John Woo sauce to
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
You
It is a
know,
bit John Woo. It actually is reminding me now a bit of sort of Metal Gear Hideo Kojima.
yeah,
Like,
Hideo Kojima.
you know, like the sort of slow-mo scene of like Snake like pulling his pistol against the glass and trying to shoot. That is like,
Yeah,
you know, it's a bit over the top, but it suits this
you
kind
kind
of
of
fast-paced silly, you know.
almost expect it to be the first time you've seen the character and you see the name of the character
Yeah.
followed by who's playing
I
him.
wouldn't have
You
minded
know,
that.
I mean,
I'm glad it's not it.
you have brought up Hideo Kojima at a time where I've just got Death Stranding 2.
Oh,
So
is it good?
I mean, I fell in love with the first one, and so far so good the second one.
So
So
if this movie is about a train going from one place to another, or just constantly going forward,
perpetual motion.
you know, if anyone doesn't know what Death Stranding is, it's a game about. It's like people like joke that it's like a walking simulator. So
yeah, I feel like it's the people who've never played it.
Is it a walking simulator?
The first one more so,
Yeah,
because it does have quite a slow build and it's a slow burn to getting into what it is. Second one is a lot faster paced quite early on. So I haven't played it a lot, but immediately I'm doing stuff that took me at least 5-6 hours to do in the first one. So there is an element where, yes, the main mechanics of you are delivering things to different stations, but it's got that. I mean, I heard a brilliant story about Hideo Kojima. And I think, although we've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent, I think this is a really good way of showing this story I'm about to tell, of showing the differences between kind of US markets and sort of Asian markets, because they were talking about when games and films to a certain extent, but when they were doing a pre-release to reviewers, which they basically sent the game out, people played it, and unanimously people came back and said it was amazing, it was brilliant. And most people would be like, oh, fantastic, we've put all this work in that, we're on the right tracks. Hideo Kojima apparently was disappointed with that because he said it's too mainstream then. If everybody loves it, it's too mainstream. There's no artistic worth in it, because it's like, it would be like the thing that everybody, in some ways, it's almost like a little bit of like the Marvel movie. Everybody's going to go and see the next Marvel movie. Artistically, is it cinema to some extent, but it's never going to be held up in high regard like, let's say, you know, a David Lynch film, for example. And so he then went back and made massive changes to like the story and in general to make it more unique and make it more artistic. And I think that's a really, really sort of interesting viewpoint on art and creating something.
yeah. I think even linking to that story of him holding his own against the, you know, and what's his name?
Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, holding his own against him and not compromising on his sort of vision for it, and having that, you know, it's things like that, isn't it? That if you remove, you just have a film. Well, you know, you have the same film, but you have no going of a fish in it, and it's like, at that point, it's like, well, you know, you're going to take the rave club out. You know, should you take? You know, it's like and then you strip it down just action movie like all the Western ones. Get to the front of the train, you know, like save the president's daughter, or, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, like I think, and Hideo Kojima's, you know, similarities in the sense that he doesn't really he probably does some aspects, but he's sort of known not to compromise on his sort of vision. It's mental, isn't it, a lot of the time?
Yeah.
And you watch it and go, I don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good.
Death Stranding, I remember thinking, why is he carrying a baby in this like glass jar? Like, on the face of it, what the fuck is that? And I think a bit like the fish scene, what the fuck is that? Why is that there? Does it add anything to the story? No. Is it, if you take that out, is it going to make the story better? No. Is it going to make it worse? Probably not. But it's those things that make you go, it makes it more unique. It's those things where you go, oh, I can see I'm watching a Bong Joon-ho movie. I can see I'm watching somebody's vision of what this world is and what this story is. You put this film in the hands of Steven Spielberg, it looks very different. You put it in the hands of Tarantino, it looks very different. And each director has their way of doing those things and telling their story. And it's that thing of, I often say studio executives are obviously always worrying about making money, and that's their job, and you can understand that to a certain extent. But sometimes all that does is it rips out the heart of a movie.
Yeah.
So it's not, when I say the heart of a movie, I don't mean the thing that makes the thing that, tells its story the best, or the thing that, makes it a better film. What it does is it rips out that uniqueness and that individuality and the humanity in films, because I can always think back to The Prestige, which is my favourite film, as you know, and the opening shot of that is just completely silent, and you see all these top hats. There's no sound, to the point where the first time I watched it on DVD, I thought the sound wasn't working, and it's a point where you go, why would you do that? Surely you want something in there. And then you just hear Christian Bale saying, are you watching closely? And it, you take that part of the film out, it doesn't make the film worse, doesn't make it any better by having it in there, but it makes it a Christopher Nolan film. I was speaking to somebody about Tenet the other day, and the film editing in that, the sound editing in that is quite bad. When we watched it in the cinema, I would say we lost probably 70% of the dialogue, because the way the sound is edited is that you can't really hear what's being said. And that was a conscious choice from Christopher Nolan.
Whoa.
Now, you can say that probably was a detriment to the film Tenet, and in my opinion, it probably was. But the fact that he decided to do it anyway, the same thing with Bane and the voice, and how the Bane voice is kind of a little bit, and the Batman voice is a little bit, is that going too far? People kind of mock it, and is it a bit silly? And the fact that Nolan does it anyway, it's kind of like, that's what makes Christopher Nolan films Christopher Nolan films.
That's why you go see it. Like, I'm happy to go watch another one, because he's little bits.
He's very much, I'm going to do this my way, and this is what I want, And not to say that filmmakers who do compromise, just to take it in a completely different direction. A film called Bruiser I watched the other day, directed by George A. Romero, who's done Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. He was doing this studio movie called Bruiser, and it was, I think, his highest budget movie up to that point, and it had a lot more studio interference, and he was like, I'm not used to this, but he just kind of went along with it and was like, yeah, cool, if that's what you want, that's what we have. And the film kind of suffered for it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's the wrong way to make films, or, you shouldn't do that with films. But if we didn't have people like Bong Joon-ho who kind of dig their heels in and say, no, this is the film I'm making, this is what we have, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not doing anything else. If we didn't have that, then all films would be pretty much the same. You'd see, they'd all be that slightly rubbish Netflix action film where they're interchangeable. You can put one person in and one person out, and it's no different.
And I think, come back to that fish scene as well. I mean, what it does, if to sort of, still man the fish scene, is that it makes you feel uncomfortable. Because, in movies, I think we've seen guys in balaclavas with like machetes before. It sounds insane to even say that we've seen it before, but we've all seen a load of action films, we've seen scary villains in balaclavas and like SWAT team looking people, and it's like, I've never seen one gut a fish before. And if at the very
for no reason, like they're not in a
yeah, but I feel like he's sort of saying, I'm gonna gut you like a fish.
Yeah. But like you could see it, like, well, the point I was making by saying for no reason, like, I've just got in my head, like, if they were in like a fishmonger's or a fish market, that would make sense for somebody to do that.
Yeah, why do you bring the fish to that bit?
But here, it's like, that's a very deliberate thing. You know, he's had to have gone, I need to bring a fish. I need to get a fish because I need to tell them that I'm going to gut them like a fish, but I don't want to just say that. You know, from the character's motivation, he's gone to get a fish. So I've just got I've gone down a tangent now, a rabbit hole.
He's gone to the aquarium to get the biggest sort of sea fish.
All the lads in those guards, they're all getting balaclavaed up. They're all getting tooled up. You know, they're saying, right, have you got your riot shield? Yep. Have you got your tool? Yep, got my tool. Right. Okay, right, we need to go. Let's go because they're coming just now. And then there's one guy goes, hang on a minute, I need to go get a fish. And the others must be thinking, why has he got to go and get a fish? And so, oh, it's Mad Larry. He's like that. And then he's at the front and he goes, now we know why he's got a fish. You know, it's just a totally bonkers thing.
It's not like that's his battle cry because they haven't had a battle on the train properly for like 7 years or something, have they? It's still a revolution. So it's not like he's always doing that.
Yeah,
he just did it then.
Yeah.
Did it once.
It's not like, oh yeah, that's old Fish King that is.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But it's like I mean, obviously that is a ridiculous conversation we've just had. But that's why this film is so, I don't want to say so good because that doesn't do it justice, but it's so unique because why would you have that scene in there? And you can't really answer it. There's no real good answer other than it's an auteur making a decision about how he wants to tell a story, you know, and I think it's such a commendable thing to stand up to not only a studio executive, but the worst studio executive, you know, in Harvey Weinstein. I think it just tells you everything I need to know about Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah.
So
the aquarium bit is very. When they went in there, I was like, they're in bloody sea life centre. Not in a bad way, but it actually, in a bit in a bad way, but like in a, you know, like it feels like they're in like an aquarium. That is the shape of, that's what it would probably look like if it was in a train.
I think all of these like different areas of the train, all kind of like, and it's not forced in any way. It's not like shoved in your face. But I was thinking about it earlier about like it asks questions about humanity. Like, okay, the world has gone to shit, and the only place to live is on this train, and we're still doing things like having aquariums. Like, there's all these questions about animal rights and, you know, the ethical things of keeping animals in captivity. And it's like, it asks you those questions, like, even in those situations, we're still seeing ourselves as the dominant species to the point where all the other animals are all dead as well, but we need some to look at in this nice view.
I think I see what you mean, actually, but I think they're just using that. They're showing that is where they get their fish from.
True, but I think it has
you don't
that
really have to look at it.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by it's not forced. It's there if you want to look at it, and you want to look at it that way. You know, when you go into the classroom, and it's like the indoctrination of the you know, because they're born into the right family and they're born to the people who are at the front of the train. You know, they're indoctrinated in, you know, all this propaganda about how great Wilford is. And you know,
it's also at this point as well. This might be a bit controversial, but anyway, one thing I will say,
controversial opinion incoming.
I will say it's not controversial. I will say that I saw it now because I think The Wicker Man is probably one of my top favourite films now. I love it, but anytime someone goes to a classroom with a missing persons thing, I think of The Wicker Man scene where it's like, "Have you seen this woman?" You know, it's like, and I know what he says. I've forgotten now.
You're all liars.
Yeah.
In my best Edward Woodward.
Oh my god! Yeah, I just think of that scene, and it's not quite like that in this. But I was just thinking, is it going to be something like that? Anyway, at this point, there's been a few sort of insinuations that the guy Wilfred is a bit of a pedo or something. Like, you know, like he likes kids, you know.
Yeah.
So you get a few. At this point, you're thinking this is getting weird now. And why is this classroom so like colourful and stuff? And you think, and then you start to think about who is this Wilford guy. You've not seen his face yet. Yes, Ed Harris, but who is this Wilford? Is it Wilford?
Wilford, yeah.
Yeah, and you get all these, like, is he like a bit, because you don't assume that. You don't think, oh, he's just that bad. He might be using them for work or something. You don't know what he's doing. But then you start to think of, in my head, I was like, what is the type of person that would build a big train track around the world and is very eccentric, very good at technology and stuff, but they also just like trains. Yeah, do you know what I mean? They just like trains.
He's living his best life.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because in Ford Station, Ford Station's near Littlehampton, so if people don't know, it's geographically very close to me and Ryan, really, Ford. And there's a shop there, a train model railway shop. And I brought it up the other day, and that's why it triggered this, because we're in here. And it was like in these train tracks, like you can buy these packets of like little stations and stops and different characters. And some of them are like blacked out in the shop, and they're like X-rated ones. So you can have like a red light district on your at-home railway.
Mm.
But then I was like, what kind of guy is this guy that's built this railway?
Yeah.
Is he someone that would have like an X-rated stop and stuff? Turns out he has a rave in his train. He's an interesting character.
It's almost the thing of, leave man to his own devices. Like, if you could create something from nothing, and whatever it is, and you've got unlimited resources or whatever it may be, like, where do you stop? And it goes into that human aspect as well of like, when does the gratification for one thing end and the gratification for another thing start? So like, this isn't like he wasn't born, right, I'm going to build a perpetual motion train that'll never stop. It's never that. But like, it would have gone in gradual stages and like, okay, well, we've got this train that's going to keep everybody alive. Great. That's a really great thing. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, but we need to segregate people because we can't have those people with these people. And then then it gets to a point of, oh, well, now we need nice things for the people at the front of the train. What do we have? And it all escalates, and you start, and I think from a morality point of view, and you hit, this is a very sort of like common trend in these things where you can't remember where you became the bad guy. At one point he was the good guy, and to some people he still is the good guy. Let's not forget he has created life or a way to live in a world where it's uninhabitable. So that's a good thing. But at some point he's then gone, oh, but we're going to give a school teacher the ability to protect the front of the train from the people at the back of the train for no other reason than order. It kind of explains why that order needs to be there.
Well, but they limit the population on the train, don't they? They make a firm way, this is their way of culling, it turns out, the population, which on a train is something they would actually have to do if it goes on forever. But then, you think there's these other things of like, the guy, that the drug addict character, or who actually is making a bomb. You think, does Ed Harris, does Wilford's, he'd stay on this train. He's going to die on this train, even if it did warm up outside.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to start adding stops to the journey.
Yeah,
maybe he is, but I don't think so.
No, it's his worst nightmare is the world becoming a place to live again.
I think so, yeah.
And that's because then he has no power. Because then, well, we can go anywhere we want. Why would we stay on this train? And then all of a sudden he's got no power. Whereas here, because he's the one who knows how the train works, nobody can overthrow him, because if they do, then the train stops.
Well, should we just talk about that for a bit? Because I guess one thing I haven't really taken in is, why does he need the kids for? Is it like...
So I think he alludes to the fact that certain parts for the train have become extinct, and what I kind of understand, I mean, it's not explained in depth. Like there isn't like a Haynes manual for this train where you go, okay, now what you need to do is you need to pull that lever. There's none of that.
Okay.
So so the parts become extinct somehow, or, you know, whatever that may be. And I think the only thing small enough to do something which I'm presuming was automated with a part or with a special tool is something small enough like a child to be able to put your arm in and put whatever it is in one thing. I think that's what I kind of got from it, but it's not massively explained, so you could kind of
I've just
gloss over that.
realised something because Timmy, the lady's child, when just to skip to the end quick, they find him. He's under.
Yeah.
I think at that point, Chris Evans is about to think, oh, maybe I will just sort of run the train, and then they pull up the floor. The clairvoyant go, no, he's under the floor, and she's like, look what this is going on. Then he makes a bit of a sacrifice, saves the kid, and then. But there's another kid who is the guy that got his arm chopped off, the guy from Snatch. No, Lock, Stock, you said.
Yeah, Ewan Bremner.
And then he goes to sit in like the front of where it would be Snowpiercer, I guess, it's that bit. And is he at that point, has he got a shaved head?
Yeah.
And I just clocked that there's these other shaved head characters that are giving out eggs, funnily enough. And it's like, maybe that's them grown up. Maybe they were in the front of the train at one point.
Probably, actually.
Maybe that's what that's saying.
I hadn't kind of really thought about that. I mean, maybe it's something to do with, like, why they shave their heads. Maybe because of, like, the heat or something. Hair could catch fire. I don't know. But then what? But then you wouldn't be wearing. I don't know. I think it's just a way of holding power over, people again. Take away their individuality and take away their freedom of expression. Simple things.
He's a bit of a Doctor Who sort of villain, really, in the sense like a sort of puppet master type of this is my train. But he's not. He's Ed Harris, so he's.
And if he was he was a Doctor Who villain, the Doctor Who villain would be called the train driver.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, and so there are, as we've kind of touched upon, there are things that aren't like massively explained. So, and I think it doesn't get dogged down in trying to explain what doesn't really need to be explained. Like, I know obviously you said you kind of miss that, but I don't feel like it needs.
Oh no, I actually, I don't know if I said that, but if I did say, I take that back. I think that it does the world building really good.
Yeah,
I think it's just enough. I think when you got world gone wrong, I don't care. Like, world gone wrong outside, let us know what's going on in the train. That's cool. And I also like you're coming from it from their perspective a bit. So I like that, that they're like, oh, maybe those people did they survive? And they kind of, no, I don't think they did. But, I love the bit where he's like, oh, the plane is, every year we go past, there's a little bit less snow on it. I like that he's always looking out the window.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point where you start having, like, that is for me, it was the kind of turning point in the film where you started to see there was kind of more, for lack of a better term, there was more humanity in these characters. Not that there wasn't up to that point, because when you see that, before he explains it, you think he's just admiring the beauty of the landscape, because there is a real beauty to it. The fact that the whole world is frozen over.
Yeah.
Mother Nature in all its glory. There's something quite picturesque and, stunning about it all, however horrific it may be for humanity. So you think he's just, admiring that kind of element. But when you do then find out, actually, he's not, drugged up all the time. He's actually incredibly intelligent and incredibly motivated, because I don't think it says how long he's been doing it, but it certainly alludes to the fact he's been collecting that. What do they call that stuff?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But essentially, like it's flammable matter, isn't it? I think it's like the byproduct of. I think it's what they use for fuel, but the byproduct of that is that you can get high off of it. So he's been collecting that, and they allude to it being for quite a long time, and they think he's like essentially a massive cokehead, but he's not. He's just hoarding it so he can get off the train. And the reason for that is because he's noticed that the plane each year is becoming less and less covered with snow.
He sort of has a dream.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the only person really on there.
I think there's an element because
he can do that.
Because I remember the first time I saw it, I didn't notice a plane, and without taking it back, I know when it does like the flashback, you do see the plane, but I didn't notice the plane the first time. So if the plane is there, then I take this back. But in my head, it's almost like a thing of, is there a plane at all? Does it? The point is that he dreams of being off of this train, so he will find a reason.
And he's like a man of the old world. Like the first thing he does when they let him out of his like cell, because he's away, he has a cigarette, and they're like, oh, Marlboro, and then they're like, he's like, do you want one? And then he very quickly sort of says, I wouldn't give you dirty pig one or something to Chris Evans. But he says it really quickly. I like it. I like the delivery of whatever's going on there.
But so I think for me, it's almost a thing of, that was a nice touch because I didn't notice the plane. Oh, I'll go back and watch and see if the plane is there on the first time he looks out the window, because if it's not, I think that's amazing. If it is there, then I've just created this whole subplot that isn't there at all. But I like the idea of the fact that he's seen this thing and this reason to get off this train, and actually it's not there. It's just he wants off. He wants to be free.
Yeah, and I think like that, if I mean, it's quite cool that the young girl is sort of clairvoyant, and I'm not getting that wrong. She actually is, isn't she? She sort of sees things before they happen. Is that right?
Whether or not it's actually a clairvoyance, but there's definitely a whole thing about her being able to know what's coming next.
Yeah, and I feel like, so there is a little bit of spirituality in this, and I feel like he is just dreaming of the promised land. He's dreaming of something else. And you're right, even if there's a plane there or not, right? And I think that he's, if you're going on a fucking bullet train, like however fast this train's going, looking at snow,
it's all going to blend into one,
anyway.
isn't it? Yeah. So I think you'll see, and I think it's that whole thing of you'll see what you want to see.
Yeah.
He sees a reason. He sees freedom, and so he's gonna chase that at every cost. And I think Chris Evans leads and sees the front of the plane, and it's a very much a very obvious metaphor for him literally running away from his past. Like the fact that he lives in the back of the train and he's just going forward is very much a metaphor for the fact of the whole reason he's doing all of this is to make up for what he's done in the past. So he's just he's not thinking about the past until he obviously has to, because he's got to the end and he can't go any further.
Yeah, but
he has to confront it.
Yeah, but the only way he was only like that because probably he potentially might not have been a bad person before he's on the train. So it's like he was only... I think it's sort of saying that the only way is off the train, and it wasn't necessarily his fault that he was crazy, like feels that guilt. I think it's sort of saying that well done, you've made it to the front of the train. Now you can be the train conductor, and it's like, hold on a minute, this is bad. It's like he doesn't really, you can't really repent for what you've done, because the only way to get off, the only way to really come to terms with what you've done is to forgive yourself, and you can only really forgive yourself if you get off the fucking train. Do you know what I mean? Because you don't belong, you can't have a life on there. It will all turn into either mad partying, it'll either turn into like raving, a terrible young person behaviour, or
bloody delinquents.
Yeah, and maybe the train can only exist with a bit of a hierarchy, really, unless they all really did take turns. I mean, there could be a way you could run that train a bit more humanely, I reckon, but it would very quick. You'd need someone really good to be able to keep that in place. It would only take a few little revolutions to go back to, or just to fall into absolute chaos.
And I think it's a good sort of depiction of the element of humanity. Is I think there is a natural kind of humanist instinct to kind of place yourself in a hierarchy and to be, I think the reason why there is a back of the train is so that the people just above the back of the train don't feel like they're the bottom of the train. And the reason they're there is so that the people next in the next section don't feel like they're the lowest. And I think it's always that thing of like, when he gets to the front, i.e. when he gets to Ed Harris, oh, that's it. like there's there's nothing to strive for. There's nothing to be better than, because you are the...
All there is the system.
Yeah, like
it is just when you get there and then you're just like, oh, you can be in control of that system.
And it's almost like the thing of when they say when if you've got totally unlimited resources, then what is there?
Maybe
there's no striving for the next thing. And I think it's it's such a simple way of showing like a very real human thing of how we all strive to get to the next level, whatever that may be, whether it's a promotion at work, whether it's a bit more money, whether it's having a family, whatever it may be for you personally. We all strive to get to the next level, and nobody actually considers like, what if we get to the highest level? What is there then? And that obviously in life there probably isn't a highest level, but in this world there is a literal highest level or furthest level. And if Chris Evans gets there and it's like, there's kind of nothing there.
Well, and I think there is in terms of things that involve, like, I think what you need is enough money to live and feel safe, really. And any more, it can, if the train went on for longer, that it would probably get more and more, it would probably be even more messed up. Like there was a few more carriages. It would be getting weirder and weirder as the train went on, really. I think my only my only queries of this movie or not feedback, because it doesn't need feedback.
Yeah, I'll send a letter to the director saying, here's our feedback on the film.
My takeaway, all I would say is I would have liked more carriages, but you couldn't fit that in a movie. I think it's done just as best it can be, to be honest.
That's why I'm quite interested to see where the TV show goes.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually what I want is what someone else obviously thought that as well.
So I'm interested to see, because I think obviously you're limited by the medium in which you're telling its story. Yeah. In a series, you can explore these things on a much longer platform.
And it's, what is it? Sean Bean,
I think, is in. I don't know how much of, but yeah,
do people like it? I've never heard bad things.
I think it's well received.
Wow.
Funnily enough, I was speaking to somebody from work who was saying, "Oh, have you seen the TV show?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Oh, it's really good." So it's had anecdotal recommendations. So
it's funny, isn't it? Because isn't Captain America like the Winter Soldier, and this is a very cold movie?
Yeah.
The monologue when I know he spoke about it before, but when he talks about what happened and he really blows the drug dude's mind.
Yeah.
It's just done really, really chef's kiss.
Yeah, I think going back to what I was saying earlier about it being a really interesting time for Chris Evans, I think it reminds you actually of how good of an actor Chris Evans is. Like, I think it's very easy to be honest, all of the people in the Marvel, who are good actors, it's easy to kind of just see them as like this action star and this action, this movie star, but actually they are like great actors. Like, obviously it's not Daniel Day-Lewis in that methods kind of sense or that kind of style of acting, but in terms of mainstream good quality acting, like Chris Evans is probably at the top of his game here. And you put somebody who perhaps isn't as strong of an actor, then this whole character arc falls a bit flat.
Yeah, I mean, someone saying that he knew that babies tasted nice. That's one of the lines in this, like, and he hates himself for it because they were like cannibals. They were going that way. Is like, if that was delivered by, I don't know how he's delivered that, and
Yeah, not that you would cast John Malkovich, but if I hear John Malkovich saying that, it's very, 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 very different.
It just somehow it's really compelling. I know it's really dark stuff, but it's like it's really like God. It hammers it home at the end. I didn't feel like I was like totally. I don't know how you felt, but I honestly felt kind of shocked almost. It's very sort of delivers it one or two sentences that. And they did this, and they did this, and they did this, which is like literary. It's a bit like it reminds me of the Blood Meridian book when it's like, see the boy, he did this, you know, all these like it's like really dark stuff, and it's like it's just I think it's really quite good writing, I think, or just good acting, like because I already brought it and you know. I wasn't really expecting it to sort of get any more serious.
Yeah.
Was you?
No, actually. Like, I was expecting some form of twist because it feels like that kind of film where there would be a twist. And to be honest, I thought, the twist is going to be when he gets to the front.
Who's the train
driver?
Is it his dad or something?
What's his motivations? You know, is it John Hurt? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But obviously I saw that Ed Harris was in this. I was like, we haven't got Ed Harris yet, so I'm guessing it's him. Which is why I always think, you know, credits at the start of movies, I think sometimes ruin it because you kind of go, and same with trailers, sometimes ruins it because you go, oh, who's that guy going to be? It's like, it's obviously going to be that dude. I mean, we know he's in it, you know, and we haven't seen him yet.
Trailers are so annoying.
But going back to that speech, the literary, there must be a name for it, but the literary device that happens where you think you're listening to him as a viewer of a story or of a... Let me rephrase this. So when he's telling that story, you think he's just witnessed this thing. You think he's seen it or he's heard it or it's something that is abstract. And then you realise that he's the person he's talking about. That is such a good, like, a good device where you build up all of this kind of horror, and you go, the person he's talking about is horrible, it's terrible, oh my god, and then you go, oh fuck, it's him. He's the one he's talking about. And it, you know, I think it goes back to that thing of probably the person who views him as the most evil is himself. Obviously there will be, you know, in that situation, people are doing crazy fucking shit all the time. But because goes back to him as in terms of his morality, he's not able to forgive himself because he's at his heart a good person. It's a little bit like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Have you ever heard about that?
No.
So the Dunning-Kruger effect is when people with lower intelligence don't know that they have lower intelligence, so they think they're smarter than they are, and people with higher intelligence think they're not as smart as they are. So, for example, somebody who's quite smart will always be going, I don't know enough about this subject to be able to make a comment on it. People with lower intelligence will be like saying, I know what I'm talking about. That kind of thing. So that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's kind of that here. It's not the same effect, but it's like the only person who will think that what he done is really, really bad from a morality point of view is a good person. And the fact that he applies that to himself shows that he's a good person. Well, I've said that in a really long-winded way.
No, I get you. He does feel like he's a reformed person with demons that he's not fully come to terms with, and he's obviously going for a bit of a crisis. And he's just monomaniacal. You know, let's get to the front of the thing because there's got to be something.
And I think obviously the reason he has that moment there is because what I was saying earlier, and perhaps didn't explain it very well, because he's running away from his past, he gets to that door and it doesn't open. He's nowhere else to run now. He has to face it head on because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's the old only fools and horses trick in that episode where, you know, there's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to run when you're stuck in a broken lift. You know, when Rodney's having that, you know, heart to heart about, you know, Cassandra having a miscarriage.
Oh,
He's got to talk
God.
about it because he can't get out of the broken lift. He's got to talk about this shit he's running away from and the shit that's motivating him because there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
You know, he can't go back because in a obviously in a physical sense, his past isn't back where he was on the train, but in his kind of psychological sense, if I go back there, then I'm going back to that place and I'm going back to being that person.
Oh.
You know, what are your thoughts on the woman with the tape measure? Because I find her really weird.
I really like her. I thought,
when I say find her really weird, but like it in a way that's perfect for this film.
Yeah.
Like when she first comes on and she's measuring the children, as you say, there's that real horrible kind of insinuation that like there's some real. I mean, there is some like horrible stuff going on, but it seems a lot more seedy than it is.
Yeah, I think
you know,
so.
and I think the fact that she at that point is the first person you've seen with like extravagant color schemes, like she's wearing that bright yellow coat.
I get,
you know,
in my head, it's a little bit like Christopher Lee in James Bond, like a sort of Scaramanga, like a interesting character who like takes people's coat and holds. It's very James Bond, her character.
Yeah.
And
that's a really good like link you've made there because it is so James Bond, isn't it?
And it's like,
you know, it's Odd Job or it's Jaws or it's.
And it's the sort of henchman that just does anything, but sort of is. I don't know. It's not quite as Smithers and Mr. Burns. You know, it's a bit of that. It's funny as well. And then you know, of course, you get to the front of the train. You don't just shoot the guy. You have to have some sort of like. You have to have some like conversation.
This
with
megalomaniac
all the
explanation. Yeah,
it's one of those things like you know they say with like musicals or someone said on YouTube. You know, it's always. The last act in musical is normally the worst one because you have to land the plane or something.
Yeah,
and it's
you
like
have to stick the landing.
And it's generally where they get all a bit convoluted because it's really hard to.
It's the age-old Agatha Christie thing where she's figured out, you know, Hercule Poirot has figured out who the killer is, and he does this big speech about why the killer done what he done, and then the killer stands up and goes, "You got me, Poirot." And it's like you go, "Have you got any evidence?" That's what you would do. Well, I'll contact my lawyer then. No. Good job. I knew you were an adversary for me. And it's got you did. Unfortunately, I feel like this film kind of has to have that.
Yeah.
But
it
when I said
it fully, it leans
into it. And when I said earlier about you're in safe hands with Ed Harris, that's why somebody like Ed Harris is so important for that. Because if you have somebody who doesn't have that kind of gravitas and that it only really works when you've had actors who are really experienced actors. Like I'm going to make a link now to a US remake of Old Boy, which is I think the guy who directed Old Boy, Park Chan-wook is the producer on this.
Oh, wow.
So another well-known Korean filmmaker who directed Old Boy, which is a really bleak film. But they done a US remake directed by Spike Lee, I think, and it's not a very good movie at all. It's really, really bad. And the film has this kind of moment where it's the reveal, it's the twist, and I can't remember the actor's name, but it's the dude who's in District 9.
Oh, I don't remember him, but he's good, isn't he?
Yeah, he plays that guy, but he's really eccentric, a little bit like Ed Harris is here. He's got really extravagant clothes. He's quite unique looking. But because he doesn't have the Ed Harris effect or a John Hurt effect or a Michael Caine effect or Sean Connery or any of these actors who are really established and immediately believable, you know, because he doesn't have that. I mean, that's not the reason why the film doesn't work. It's one of the reasons. The landing just doesn't work, and it feels very like it feels very much like oh God, now we're going to hear a monologue from some megalomaniac who, thinks he's more important than he actually is. And why are we listening to this? And oh God, here we go again. It's a little bit kind of not B movie, but it's a caricature, and it's very, vaudevillian and Machiavellian kind of approach. Whereas this doesn't come across that. It comes across as like somebody who he's telling you this because he fucking understands this world that's been created, and he understands and he knows exactly what's going to happen.
Well, he's very much like he can strike fear in your Ed Harris. I think he's a serious guy, and he just has a coldness to him, I guess, which suits the movie because it's so cold.
Yeah,
and
but at the same time being very charming.
Yeah,
like you want to listen to him. You want as much as
I would be a bit scared of it.
Yeah, you listen. Yeah, it's that thing of going. He's the teacher at school who you're scared of. But he's teaching the subject that you really enjoy.
He's Mr. Is it Mr. Allison?
Mr. Allison.
He was
Mr. Allison from Science.
For some reason, everyone used to just respect him just because he sort of treated it like a military operation. Right, boys, we need respect. And everyone's like,
you kind of did. You were kind of like, I wouldn't cross him.
I was just scared of him.
I mean, I was as well, naturally. But there was an element of like,
Sid, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. Sid.
What are you doing? It'll always be Sid, bless him.
Yeah,
No, I literally remember one time, like, I think we were about to do something with the Bunsen burners, and I literally pulled the rubber tubing off the gas thing, and then Sid did the exact same thing, and then followed by Sid, what are you doing? And I was just like, I've literally done the same thing, and I get away with it. It's brilliant. But yeah, that kind of teacher or that kind of person who you really don't want to cross, you respect him and you kind of want to listen to him, even though what he's telling you might not be that interesting or might not be something you agree with. You can't help but listen.
It'd be really funny if right at the end of the movie he just kept going on about some stuff that wasn't that interesting.
Yeah. It's like, oh, let
me show you how this works.
Come with me. So the other day, I was noticing when I was opening up this steak. Look at the plastic they're using to cover this. I
think it'd be train facts. Like if he was just like,
I've grown up listening to my dad talk about buses. So literally, that is that. When my dad gets with my uncle and they start talking about fleet numbers. And they start talking about number plates of buses that they drove when they were bus drivers. It's like, it's literally like, oh, have you seen the old 30418s? Yeah. Yeah, they're not a lot of them about in circulation at the moment. The things I remember is when you used to open the door, the old flank clerk used to come out, didn't it? And you're just like, what are they talking about? But yeah, it would be train stuff, wouldn't it? Like saying, well, the thing is with this particular model of carriage, is that you've really got to understand that actually if you put too much in terms of the weight distribution, actually what will start to happen is you'll start to just rock to and fro. You don't want to be hearing that, but you want to hear about his grand scheme for this train.
Yeah. He also reminds me a bit of another one where this has happened recently is Wicked, isn't it? Where they've had the wizard as
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, which I don't know yet until I see the part 2. I love Jeff Goldblum.
That was the only thing about that I couldn't. It felt like they got Jeff Goldblum just because it's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Rather than it being who's right for this particular role.
I hate to say it, but I wonder if maybe with the whole thing together, like the second part that I might
hopefully we get to see the full of the character arc.
Yeah.
It's very difficult it's very difficult to make a full judgment when you've seen half the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that felt a little bit more out of place. But then that film isn't as coherent in this film in sort of all aspects.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not Jeff Goldblum's fault. It's the whole. But
I think Jeff Goldblum has got to that point where if you put Jeff Goldblum in this film and you replace Ed Harris with Jeff Goldblum, I think it becomes what Wicked is to a certain extent, because I always see Jeff Goldblum as being quite quirky and quite like because Ed Harris is slightly scary and slightly, you never quite trust him. Whereas I feel like Jeff Goldblum is immediately more trusting. And so you kind of it would feel a bit sort of like.
Well, the wizard in that you'd imagine would be a little bit more of a swindler.
Yeah.
And I feel like Jeff Goldblum doesn't really come across as a swindler. He comes across as, like you say, quirky. I can imagine him designing all the green stuff, but I can't imagine him like being a bit of a snake.
Yeah, I can imagine him selling a tonic that doesn't really work. You know, oh, this is a health tonic. Yeah, it doesn't work at all, but you want to buy it anyway because he's a really good salesman.
Which
kind of
one?
Thing. Jeff Goldblum.
Oh yeah.
Whereas with Ed Harris, you'd be like, well, I'm obviously not going to drink that, am I?
So maybe he was a good choice for Wicked then.
To some extent, I think the problem with Wicked is I quite liked it, to be fair. Hannah hated it. I think the problem with that is it did come across as that. And I don't really know, to be honest, what the difference is, other than perhaps the casting choice. It did come across as a bit like a type moment.
It happened in Joon as well, very similar. I know we talk about all these puppet masters. It happened in Joon as well, a famous one recently with, Christopher Walken. Yeah, and you know, I like Christopher Walken, so when I see these people turn up in the films, I find it really hard to sort of just say like, oh, that didn't quite fit right. But a lot of people are saying that. My brother thought that. He's like, I don't know, because he really loves Joon and the world of Joon. He's like, he didn't really like that. He doesn't even know, you know, he wouldn't know about Christopher Walken as much, but he just didn't think it fit that person. And there probably is something in that. And it's like, you got to get your puppet masters right.
Yeah.
And every one of those actors deserves to be, and actresses can be a puppet master in something. It's just, you know, we need order.
Yeah.
we need to put them in the right carriage.
Yeah. And I think
Jeff Goldblum is the one. And now the more I'm thinking of it.
Yeah.
Or could it have been that guy?
It's very much a, you know, moustache twirling type approach.
Could it have been that guy though from that Hell and Heaven show? You know, that guy who's doing the rounds.
Oh, yes, Ian McShane.
Or would that just be more of the same?
Ian McShane has that kind of gravitas, though, I think.
Yeah.
I think he has that kind of... Seems like he's very charming, but seems like he has a real dark side. I don't buy Jeff Goldblum having a dark side. Like, he's done all this bad shit, but I feel like he's done it because he didn't know what he was doing. Whereas Ed Harris, he's done all this bad shit. He knew what he was doing, but he knew he had to do it.
Yeah.
You know, going back to the MCU, Thanos, for example, you know, the villain aspect of that is he's actually doing the thing that nobody else has the ability to do, and nobody else has the balls to do. He's saving the world, and if that means killing half of the world, then that's what I have to do. Jeff Goldblum is very much, oh shit, what have I just done? Oh bollocks, I've pushed the wrong button. That type of. So maybe that's perhaps why it doesn't work for me.
Yeah,
but
I think
in that world,
he fits the world.
Jeff Goldblum fits the world, but maybe not that role.
Yeah.
So maybe if he was like the lion in it, maybe.
Yeah.
If I know, I don't think Wicked ever gets that character in there.
No.
Oh no, it does. I just can't remember how it's done because I know how the Tin Man happens. I won't spoil it.
I've seen the show now.
Oh, you've seen the show? Yeah. Oh, in that case, yeah. Well, so, you know.
Another spoiler for Wicked, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all quite dark, though, isn't it?
It's all quite dark, but in a vibrant way.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of these things where on the face of it all looks very, very pretty, and then you scratch the surface and it's quite dark. And, you know, I think the general point I'm making here is Ed Harris is perfect for this role.
Yeah, we like Ed Harris. We're not so sure about Jeff Goldblum for some reason.
And I think actually watching this, it made me realise how much I fucking love Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Like, The Rock is a totally 90s over-the-top action movie, but Ed Harris in that is great. History of Violence is where Ed Harris is at his, like, okay, this is Ed Harris, like, proper scary shit, Ed Harris, you know.
The problem with recorded media, isn't it, is that I know I'm going to go home and think, actually, I think about Jeff Goldblum in Wicked. I know it doesn't matter what I think about that, but I think I'm going to I actually think it probably is he is good as it. I just need to watch the second one.
I think that's the beauty of talking about film or any type of art, is that you can start in one place and you can end up at a completely different place. And going back to the general reason why I watched this film to begin with is because of the 30 Films of Joon movie challenge that I started. And my biggest learning experience from that was go and watch films that you don't think you'll like, or watch more film, because I guarantee you there will come a point where you think you're going to watch a film, you think you're going to hate it and you end up loving it, or vice versa, you think you're going to love a film and you end up hating it. So the one that for me that was the biggest surprise was a film called Blue Velvet by David Lynch. And I've never really been a massive David Lynch fan. He's always been a bit kind of like a bit too weird for the sake of being weird, in my opinion. But I watched Blue Velvet and I was going to go, right, here we go. This is going to be David Lynch. And then I just fucking loved it. It's got the same dude from the original Dune, obviously, Kyle. I can never say his name. Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, we know him, don't we? He's great.
Yeah, and guy from Twin Peaks as well. So go and watch film, even if you don't think you're going to enjoy it.
It's dark, that though. It's got some dark bits.
It is dark, but it's incredibly beautiful as well. You know, yeah. So yeah, that would be my kind of take on. And I think on your Jeff Goldblum point, I think it's interesting, and I think it's always good to kind of like explore why you like something and why you dislike something, because sometimes you kind of get to a completely different place.
Yeah.
You know? So
no, you're right there, actually. You really do. So at this point in the movie, the kid is just climbing into... See, this, I do want to say that right at the beginning of the movie, Tilda Swinton.
She does look like a Hilda, doesn't she?
Tilda Swinton does this thing with her hand, like as an action, when she talks about order and how to run the train. But when the kid climbs into the front of the train at the end,
the same thing?
He does a little thing with his hand, which I think she was... I don't know how long they've been on the train,
is she just fucking alluding to the literal thing of the reason why the train works is because of the action that the kids have to do in running it?
Yeah, I think maybe.
This is what I mean. Like,
I also, how long's the train been running? She wouldn't have been young enough to have been the child in the front, I guess. But she's
probably like part of the inner sanctum who like knows what goes on.
Yeah,
you know,
it's all just
that person's a good candidate for that. Go and get her measured up.
It honestly feels like when I saw this one, I didn't realise who the director was. I totally buoyed it off. I saw a series about it. I was like, a train going through, in through the snow. I
don't like bloody train movies.
And sometimes just a film title just doesn't stick with you, like Snowpiercer, really. Just such a don't judge a book by its cover type of thing, and that's the moral there. But it's like this is one of those ones I like. It's one of them. Like, I like these types of action films. It's right up my street. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, this is right up my street.
Absolutely. And I knew I was going to like this movie before I watched it, because there's certain directors and certain people that you have faith in, and like what I was saying with Ed Harris. You're in safe hands. And I think I made a point, quite a while ago with one of the episodes with Jim, where I was saying, I think the point I was making is in the film Dunkirk, it has Harry Styles in. And I remember at the time before that film came out, everybody was like, Harry Styles in a film? What the fuck? How? That's going to be shocking. And I was like, it's being directed by Christopher Nolan. I don't have any worries whatsoever, because I know how that guy directs. I know how he approaches his movies, and I know that if there's anybody who can do it, it's going to be him. And I think it was similar here, whereby, okay, if I was to watch a film about a train that is the only thing that can, or a train that is constantly moving around the world, that is filled with the last remnants of humanity. If I was going to watch a film about that, who would I want to direct it? And it probably would be somebody like Bong Joon-ho, who can tell a story, who can have humour with, incredible bleakness, who can have these elements that are purely just to make the film a bit different. It would be somebody like that. And obviously it's quite easy saying that after the fact, but I wasn't worried about it because I knew who it was directed by. And sometimes that's the thing that kind of convinces you about certain things, and sometimes it's the opposite. That's the film that convinces you it's not going to be good. If this film was directed by Zack Snyder, I'd be like, well, that's going to be a hot steam of shit then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's going to look visually very pleasing, but when you want to have any kind of meat on the bone, it's not going to have any.
There's some good use of slow-mo in this. Like the slow-mo's got that sort of what was that film we watched, the cop one with all the slow-mo shooting?
Hot Fuzz?
No. Oh yeah, that one as well. Yeah, let's just say that. It's got some good slow-mo things in there.
Yeah.
No, John Woo, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, Hard Boiled.
Yeah, Hard Boiled. No, Hot Fuzz is a good example. It's it just made me laugh because I wasn't thinking Hot Fuzz. But good use of slow-mo. And it's things like that, isn't it? Like, it's like when someone's got a little eye for something. It's like sometimes you watch something and you're like, I'm never upset by the use of slow-mo in this movie, and there's quite a lot of it in there. And you can watch another movie with the same amount of slow-mo in it and be like, the slow-mo in this movie is just really bugging me.
A Zack Snyder film.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
But it reminded me a little bit, actually, when you said it about the slow-mo, of, I think it's BioShock Infinite.
This is like BioShock, even with the kids having to go in the front
but I think there's a shot in BioShock Infinite where a girl is like falling and like reaching out for somebody. It's done in like slow motion, and it feels really much like every time there's slow motion, it feels very much like that. It looks like a video game. It looks like the best video game you've ever seen. In a way that video games are often made to look really cool to convince people to play them in that kind of way. And I have, just as it's on screen, the ending, I think, is the perfect example of what I was saying about things being really beautiful and really bleak at the same time. Because I don't know how you interpreted this, but for me, there's this element of like she's where she's looking out at this amazing kind of like snow-covered mountain, and it looks so stunning. And then you see something moving in the distance, and you see that there's a polar bear there, which is equally stunning. The sheer kind of impressiveness of this polar bear. And then there's the thought in the back of my mind where you go, they've just got off the train, and all of the danger that train has, and all of the hierarchy that train has. And now they're in this world, or this part of the world, where there's another type of hierarchy that they now have to deal with, in terms of there's a predator, and now you've got to protect yourself from this predator, which is inevitably going to want to come and eat you.
Yeah, because there's probably not much else to eat. Actually.
Exactly. It's that whole thing of like you become free from one thing, and then you're imprisoned by another thing. And on the face of it, that's what I mean. It's there if you want to see it, but it's not forced upon you. It just kind of looks like this thing where it's like, it's just a really nice polar bear. It's a symbol of life is existing. Life, finds a way, to quote Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic
like
Park.
Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, like finds a way. Yeah, I think the polar bear. When I was watching it last night, I was a bit tired, so I was like, oh no, is that just going to eat them? And I was like, what an annoying ending. I was like, and then I watched it again, so I was like, it doesn't really look like the polar bear is that interested in him. It's just a symbol, and it's like, like you say, there is a hierarchy. It also, that's what I thought of today as well. I was just like, for me, it's saying that, it's quite, there is life on Earth. It's carried on even through the snow. It might even be there could actually be more humans like who've survived, like in caves and things. You don't.
That's the thing.
So it's I think movies that set in bunkers like Cloverfield Lane they can have this great reveal, can't they, of the outside world? And Cloverfield Lane has a really good one, spoiler, doesn't it? I'm not that fan of that movie, but I really like the last bit.
Long time since I've seen it.
I don't want to ruin it.
No, I've seen it. I just can't remember it. So reveal it to me.
I think she gets out and then she has a boss battle with an alien.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That
she
movie,
thinks she's just being held captive by. Cause that's the thing, because nobody obviously, apart from the fact it's called 10 Cloverfield Lane, nobody really realised it was part of the Cloverfield franchise until that bit. So I remember that now.
Yeah, so I do like these types of. I like that little reveal, and it feels so open at the end because you've been stuck in the train the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot of. You can see why they made a TV show coming out of it, because there's a lot of avenues to go down. It doesn't feel like an open and closed story. It feels like that's that story. Now another story opens up. So,
agreed.
So I think obviously further watching the TV show is going to have to be on both of our further watching to see if we like it as much as we like the film. I've mentioned a couple of them, so things like Memories of Murder, I would recommend. Parasite as well, I would recommend. Another one as well, I think the Losers. Is it The Losers? Yeah, The Losers with Chris Evans, I think is another.
I'd like to watch more
one.
Chris Evans, so I'd take you up on those.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of dumb train films. I was going to ask you what dumb train
Bullet
films.
Train.
I've not seen it.
It's quite good. It's a bit, in some ways similar to this, in some ways not similar to this.
Is it just more action?
More action based, quite funny in places.
Okay.
The characters are more kind of charactery. It's essentially like a series of boss fights.
Okay.
So you've obviously got. It's a film I've not seen, but it's another Korean film called Train to Busan, which is, I think, a zombie thing on a train.
I think that sounds good.
So check that out. Trying to think of any more train movies.
What train movies? Under Siege 2. It used to stick with me because that is actually further recommendation from me, because there's one scene. I'll ruin it for you now, but there's the one.
I've seen the first one and it made me go, why am I watching?
Me and my brother's favourite bit was there was a plane that flies above it, and there's a guy that looks like Ed Harris in it, but he's not Ed Harris. He's like he's like the second villain down, the goon type villain. Or maybe he's the main villain, actually. I think he might be the main villain, and the plane flies over, and then because he's ex-military, he knows what plane it is by the sound, and he goes F-17 stealth. And that made me happy growing up. A bit of Steven Seagal.
Yeah. I mean, you've got films like The Commuter.
I've not seen that.
Which is a Liam Neeson basically taken on a train.
Of course it is.
One of those types. Another one is Source Code, which is sort of dystopian as well, sci-fi. A lot of it's set on a train. So check out Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Taken of Pelham. No, we're getting. I
mean, Taken of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Good.
I've seen the remake. I've just got the original on 4K.
I think I've seen both, but a long time ago.
Robert Shaw and Walter Matthau. I need to watch that one.
But the one that I was going to mention earlier, that it's not a great movie, but I watched it once late at night, called The Divide. That was the movie where they're stuck underground when there's an apocalypse outside and things go wrong. And there's just some, for a sort of 6 out of 10, for a movie that's a bit of fun and you can sort of tear it to pieces if you want to, which sometimes you want that.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to watch a Snowpiercer every single day. Sometimes you want to watch an Under Siege 2. Sometimes you want to watch, a Hugh Grant film. Sometimes you want to watch something else.
I just got to say, I watched that one, Hugh Grant one on Amazon.
Heretic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I did like it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought he was wildly good in it.
I mean, I think Hugh Grant is horrifically underrated at the moment.
Yeah.
He's having a real renaissance. So I think there was a point where he was being cast in rom-com type things, kind of when he was getting out of the rom-com kind of age bracket. And then I think he was cast in Paddington and people loved him in that. He was cast in The Gentleman.
Yeah, which
he's really funny in that. Like, and then obviously he was cast in Heretic, and he's brilliant. Without Hugh Grant in that film doesn't really work.
He was a villain in like Dungeons and Dragons movie, or
yes, he was. Yeah,
or is that what?
No, it was Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, he was good in that.
He was good in that. He was the best part of that film.
And then, but yeah, I thought The Heretic. I've not watched this horror for a while, to be honest. I watched it when Christina went to bed. I watched it in bed while she was asleep, and it was just like gripping.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's perfect for like.
Oh, not really gripping, but I really liked his character. Basically,
that's one of those films where the less you know going in, the better.
Yeah, don't watch the trailer.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Bury Our Bones with Cinema. We really appreciate you joining us as we deep dive into the world of film. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages to stay informed. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok and Instagram at Bury Our Bones with Cinema. You've been listening to Jimmy Murphy, Simon Key and Ryan Etherington. We will see you next time for more cinematic discussions and hidden treasures. Until then, don't forget to keep your bones buried in the world of cinema. And it will be a one-button job. Boom, 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 toom, toom, toom.
I have a terrible tendency to just swear without you're talking when we're doing it. I still find it slightly distracting.
It's a bit weird, but I think it's a bit weird. But I suppose
maybe if you listen to it back, see if it sounds. I was like, I'm gonna have to stop it because you listen to it back.
Good job I observed that well, wasn't it?